What if the life you desperately want is setting off alarm bells in your brain? You can want more money, better health, stronger relationships, more freedom, and still unconsciously keep pulling yourself back to what's familiar. Today, we are talking about why your brain does this and how you can start changing it.
One, two, three, four.
Hi, I am Carrie Marie, and this is season 3 of Holistic Mama Speaks, the podcast where I share tips and insights and real talk about living happier, living healthier, living more abundantly, and living on purpose. From prioritizing and time management to detoxing and realigning your body, home life, work life, boosting self-worth, confidence, to holistic wellness, family, relationships, and everything in between. I've got you covered. That's why it's holistic. Whether you are juggling mom life, chasing your big dream, or just looking for ways to feel better inside and out, you are in the right place. And I'm so excited that you are here. So just a quick note, I am not a doctor, therapist, or financial advisor. I'm just here to share what's worked for me and others who I've worked with, and from what I've learned and picked up along the way. So for a full disclosure on everything, head on over to holisticmamaspeaks.com. Let's dive into the episode. Here is something super fascinating about our brains. Your brain doesn't necessarily choose what is best for you. It likes what's familiar. And that's the difference. You can genuinely want things like more money or better health or healthier and happier relationships or more confidence, more freedom, more adventure, more experiences, more time for yourself, and still keep making the decisions in your life that are like pulling you back to the life that you already know. Why is that, right? And that's what we're talking about today. We're answering that question. Why do our brains keep doing this? And you know what? This is the number one thing to keep in mind. Your brain's number one job isn't to make you happy. Even though we want to be happy, that's not our brain's job. Our brain's number one job is actually to try to keep us safe. So our brain thinks the things that we already know and that are like familiar and comfortable as safe. Whether or not we even want more of those things in our life, our brain is like, oh, we already know this. We know that this is the safe space. So even when like that safe space isn't necessarily good or good for us. So think about it. We could be like in a miserable situation, whether it be maybe a miserable situation at home or at work or whatever, and we still feel nervous about when something changes. And so even though we can desperately want something, we're like craving that change. We want to have change in our life. But then as soon as we have the opportunity for change, we panic. We go into fight or flight or freeze. We overthink things. You're like saying things like, "Oh, I want more." Like whether it be more money, more happiness, more freedom, more whatever. You're saying more while another part of your brain is like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. You haven't done this before. This is scary. Let's keep you safe. Let's just keep you back here." So it's like it's doing the opposite of what we want it to do, right? And this seems to show up everywhere. It does this all the time for us. And so let's just use money as an example because we talked a lot about that last episode. Okay, so more money. You want more money, right? But for some reason, spending, investing, asking for a raise, increasing your prices if you have a business or you're selling a product or something like that. Maybe you want to increase your prices, charge more, or maybe you want to try something new. That instantly creates anxiety. And maybe it's not, maybe you don't even recognize it as anxiety, but there's something that's going on in your brain, like little alarm bells, like, this is new, this is different, this is something we don't know. And then it's pulling you back to where you already know, the area that you already know. And so let's talk again about, like, let's say your health. Maybe you want better health. You want to improve your health in one way or another, whether it be physical health or maybe it's your mindset, maybe it's whatever, some part of your health you want to improve on. But then every time you start to change your habits, so maybe you're eating healthier, or maybe you start listening to personal development, or maybe you start meditating, or maybe you start exercising, all of a sudden you end up kicking that habit. You slide back to what's comfortable, what you already know. And you'll notice that all of a sudden, like maybe you start to see some shifts in your health when you start to implement some new things. You're starting to feel more energetic or clear-minded or whatever it is, and you're so proud of yourself. But then why is it that you just keep slipping back to the way that you used to do things? And then you end up in the same predicament that you were in before. Or it could be even like your relationships with people. Maybe you want to have deeper relationships. Maybe you want to take your relationships to the next level, whether it be friendships or romantic relationships or whatever. But for some reason, making yourself feel vulnerable also feels uncomfortable. And so you kind of keep people a little bit at a distance, or don't open up to them as much, or don't get as personal or as intimate as you would like. And so you just keep with whatever is familiar and whatever is comfortable. And maybe it's just a little bit of something where you actually finally want to do something for you. You want to take a little bit of time to do something for you, whether it be a hobby or something with friends or trying something new, but for some reason you immediately feel guilty about it. You immediately feel guilty for taking time for yourself, to doing something for yourself, because you know that you have other responsibilities in life. So it's like, oh, no. And that is where that disconnect comes in place. That's why, when your conscious mind is saying, I want this would be great. And then your nervous system is like, is this safe? I don't know. Let's see. I think we should stay back here because we know about this. It's super frustrating, right? Because we want all of these amazing things in our life. We want to move forward. We want to be living this dream life. And then our nervous system's like, yikes. I don't know what you're trying to do here, but that all seems scary to me. So I'm just going to stay right here. It's like, no, 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 no. And also, this ties in a lot with stress. I want to touch on stress a little bit. When you are constantly living in this like rush, rush, rush mentality, everything is rushed, or you're constantly feeling like you're under pressure, or maybe you're worried about things, you're worried about things that don't even actually, it's not even actually something to worry about, or it's not even something that you know everything about. Like us as mothers, I feel like we're always worried about our children, like they come home a few minutes late, or we don't hear from them and they're a few minutes later than when they were supposed to be home. And we're like, oh my goodness, I hope they're okay. Did they get in an accident? Did somebody abduct them? All of this stuff. We start worrying about all these things and we're like, really? That's a little extreme, but for some reason we go into that automatically, or maybe we get overwhelmed easily. Anytime you're in like some sort of a new situation, or you're hearing information, or you have something coming up, you just are feeling that overwhelm in your life. Or maybe you're feeling scarcity. Do you feel like you never have enough? Or maybe you know for sure that you are constantly in fight or flight. Your body is already like looking for threats out there. And when you ask yourself to suddenly make big changes, when you're living in all of those states, the state of rush and worry and overwhelm and scarcity, all those things, when you're kind of living in this all the time, and you're feeling stressed all the time by living that way. And then all of a sudden, you are telling your brain, like, hey, I want to do something big. I want to make this big change. I want to be stepping into this dream life of mine that I know is out there and I know I can grab a hold of it and I can start living happier, healthier, more abundantly with more purpose, whatever it is. But it's like our body and our brains are treating it as another threat. It wants to keep us safe, away from that threat. And you wouldn't think our dream life is threatening whatsoever, right? No, we want that dream life to happen. So why is it that our body and our brain are keeping it a threat? It's because it's something new and unknown and different. And so, because of that, you don't need to keep pushing yourself harder all the time, pushing yourself toward this dream life and then keep resisting it all the time. What we need to do is retrain the brain to think that these new things, the new way we want to live, are safe. I talked a bit about this in the last episode about how our brains can be retrained. Neuroplasticity, we can actually train our brains. And so I want you to try these three things this week to try to start retraining that brain so that we're not constantly living in this old state and that we can introduce these new things. We can make change and our brain will think it's safe. So, how do we do this? What are the three things? One is catch your, like, that's not for me moments. So anytime you are thinking something like, oh, I can't afford that, or I'll never be able to do that, or I'm not that kind of a person, or that would never work for me, or I don't have time for that, or I don't have money for that. Stop yourself. So, again, I feel like I talk about this almost all the time about how awareness is key. This is where you need to have awareness of what those thoughts are, whether you're saying them out loud or just keeping them to yourself. Anytime you think any of those things, stop for a moment and ask yourself, is this actually true or is it just familiar? And that's it. You just start noticing that and asking yourself that. That reaction that you immediately have by saying like, I can't afford that, or I'll never be able to do that. Is that just your nervous system trying to regulate to the familiar, the things that you think that you know, the life that you've always been living? Or is that just you, is it trying to keep you where you currently are and not allow you to step forward and have growth, have change? So just become aware. That's the first step. It's pretty easy, but sometimes we just go through life, go through the day with thinking and saying things without even realizing it. So stop yourself and think, okay? And then ask yourself if it's something that is actually keeping you safe, because sometimes that is the case, that our brain is actually keeping us safe from something that might be dangerous. But most likely, it's just trying to keep us where we're already at, what's already familiar. Number two is to make the new things smaller. So, your first of all, your future self doesn't need to arrive tomorrow. And so, obviously, if you want to become healthier, just take a 10-minute walk. You don't need to think about, I'm going to overhaul my entire life because that seems scary to your nervous system. That's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We can't change everything. We're not going to go on some major health kick. We're not going to start working out for an hour every day, cutting out everything bad in our diet, trying to do all of these new things. No, because again, you're not going to be able to stick to it because your nervous system is trying to keep you safe. So, by just doing something little and small, just taking a tiny little action instead of like, okay, I can handle a 10-minute walk. I've done that before. I know my body can handle that. My brain can handle that. So just go for that 10-minute walk. Okay. And so maybe you want a deeper relationship with somebody. You don't need to overhaul the whole relationship. You don't need to lay it all out on the table and tell them about everything, all of your thoughts and feelings and everything. Just try sending one little message that you're thinking of somebody, or maybe you just want to share one little thing with somebody. Just try just one little thing. Maybe you want to make more money. Take one small little action that could create you a little money today, or save you a little money today, or learn something new about money today. Just one tiny little thing. Again, it's not a complete overhaul, it's not a complete change, it's just one tiny little thing. Maybe you want more adventure or experiences in your life. Instead of like completely like ditching everything that you're doing and just going on this big long 6 month long adventure and trying all these new things. No, no, no. Just just decide, I think I'm just going to try one new little thing and put it on your calendar. Just put it on your calendar. And what you're doing is you are every single time that you do this, every single time that you say you're going to do something, even if it's tiny, even if it's an itty bitty little step, and then you do it, and then you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I did it. Nobody died. I was good. I'm okay. Everyone else is okay. You're training your brain. You're giving it evidence. Like, see, I can do this. Yeah, I got this. We're okay. We did it. We took that action. And so you're slowly training the brain. The more and more you do just these itty bitty little tiny action steps, you are retraining your brain to realize it is safe to change. It doesn't need to be scary. Okay. I know that was a long one, but it's so important to just take tiny little actions to just prove that you can do it. And step number three, or tip number three, is to ask your future self a question. Okay, so picture this future version of you, this future self, the person who you want to be. And this also ties perfectly into what I talked about last week. If you missed last week's episode, I highly recommend going back and listening to it because I think that this will make even more sense to you. But anyway, think of this future version of you. And this is actually something that I asked. I had you ask a question last week. What would the healthiest, happiest, wealthiest, and most confident version of me do right now? And so if you are asking that, do the thing. So it kind of ties in a little bit of the last step, which is taking action, but you are checking in with that future version of yourself, that version that you want to be. Kind of put yourself in her shoes and like, okay, that future version of me would say this, or probably wouldn't react to something like that, or would take this action. And it's not that you're pretending to be something else. You're not pretending that you're her yet. You're just kind of checking in with that future version of yourself of like, would they do this right now? Would they want this right now? You're practicing because you're constantly in practice. To get better at anything, you need to practice. So instead of pretending to be something you're not, you're practicing to be that person. Does that make sense? And that person is you, right out there, right in the very near future. And every time you practice, every repetition, every time you take the small actions or say something differently or react differently or just not react to something at all, it makes that future version of you seem less unfamiliar. It all of a sudden starts seeming more familiar to your brain. And so your nervous system isn't like, whoa, 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 whoa. Your nervous system is like, oh yeah, actually, I know about this. This does seem safe. This seems okay. So I want you to keep that in mind. Try these three tips. And if you need to make a sticky note or if you need to put up a reminder or pop in reminders to your phone to remember to do these tips regularly, so that you can start retraining your brain so that you can become that future version of you without throwing your nervous system all wackadoodle. We don't want to throw it all out the window. We don't want to have to start all over again every single time. So that's why doing it in small little pieces is really, really important. And just taking these 3 steps, becoming aware, taking the action, and asking that future version of yourself what they would do. Okay. And here's a big piece that a lot of people miss when they are trying to do this, when they're trying to regulate their nervous system. This is why personal growth isn't just about knowing what to do, because you might have all of the steps. You might be like, yep, okay, I know this, I know this, I know this, like check the box, check the box, check the box. But then you're not feeling or acting any different. It's because most of us know plenty, right? We know, we have the knowledge. We don't have a lack of knowledge. There's knowledge everywhere out there. We know how to eat healthy. We know how to move our bodies. We know how to save money. We know how to make money. We know how to communicate with people. We know how to rest. Blah, 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 right? We know all of that. We know it's in our brain. So knowing isn't really the problem, right? Because if we all did what we knew, we wouldn't be where we are now, right? It's becoming someone from whom those choices start to feel normal. Every single choice we make, the eating healthier, the making or saving more money, the communicating better, if we become that person where those choices are seeming normal and our nervous system is fully regulated to accept those things as safe and okay to do, that's completely different. That's a completely different kind of work. It's not just having the knowledge, it is shifting into keeping our body and our minds and our nervous system aligned with what we want and knowing it's safe. It's safe to be there. And that's really, really what I'm working on inside of my women's community. I've mentioned that before. I just opened the doors to my new women's community. And we're not just talking about what you want, and we're not just telling you, like, here are some steps to take. We're actually working on becoming the version of you who actually lives it, who actually is living a happier life, who is living a healthier life, who is living a more confident life, stepping forward more confidently, more abundantly, more fulfilled, whatever means rich to you, a rich girl life. And you can be rich in so many things. We're working on beliefs and habits and patterns, emotions, nervous system regulation, and making it feel safe. Making your nervous system realize, oh, wow, this is feeling good. This is how I want to feel. And you know what? If you're ready to start becoming that next version of yourself and really living into that and training your mind, your body, your nervous system, to be aligned with that future version of you, whoever she is. I would love to have you join us in this community because we are working on this together. And that's the beauty of it too, is that we can work on this together. We can be there for each other, support one another. I'll drop the link for more information in the show notes today. You can go to holisticmamaspeaks.com and find the show notes for today's episode or look in the description. And you can find out more about this women's community so that you can learn more how to be stepping into that future version of you. And I want to give you a challenge before we hop off today. I've been doing this recently and I am so loving what I'm hearing from you on these challenges that I'm giving you. So, today's challenge that is that I want you to think about one area of your life where you keep saying, I want something different. Or you keep thinking that you want something a little different. Okay. So think about one main area. I know it would be great to overhaul everything, but again, we don't want to mess with our nervous system. We don't want to scare it. We don't want to be like, lion, when really it's like we just want some more money. So I want you to think about that. Think about all the different aspects of your life. And what do you think that you want to have change? What do you want to have differently? And again, just focus on one area. What would be a more important area to you right now? Is it money? Is it health? Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your career. Maybe it's your confidence or your fun that you're having, your experiences, the things that you're doing. Is it just more freedom in general? So think about that one area. That's the first part of the challenge. It's kind of like a two-parter. So just pick your area. And once you've picked that area, ask yourself, what if the thing that is holding me back isn't that I can't have it, whatever that one thing is. So what if the one thing holding me back is that I can't have it, but it's that I haven't learned to feel safe yet? Okay. And then take one tiny action today that your future self would take. Not 10. Don't take 10 steps. Don't try to think about overhauling the whole area. Just take one small step in that particular area because you're not waiting to magically become this new version someday. Because you know what? Someday will turn out to be never because it's always like, oh, someday, someday, someday. How many times have you say that? Someday I'll be rich. Let's teach your brain today who you are becoming now, today. Teach your brain to feel safe, okay? And then I want you to let me know what tiny action you took. Drop a comment on one of my social media posts, send me a personal message. What tiny action did you take that your future self would be okay with to start training that brain and that nervous system of yours? Thank you so much for joining me today for Holistic Mama Speaks. If you loved this episode, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Share it with a friend who needs some help and encouragement and who really just needs to hear what's in this episode. And also don't forget to leave a review and or rating wherever you are listening to this podcast. It helps the podcast to reach those who need to hear this message. So you can also head on over to holisticmamaspeaks.com for show notes, for free resources, and for more to support you along your journey. Thank you again for joining me today. See you next time.